All right, got it. It's going.
All right.
Everything seems to be okay.
All right. Well, here we are again. It's another end of the year episode here on the Cinema Discovery Project. I'm Stephen Billings, and as always, with me is Andrew Cabral. Man, what's up?
What's up? I'm doing well. Yeah, it is technically an end of the year episode for Cinema Discovery Project, but we are already 1 month into a brand new year of 2021. This is our second episode of 2021, so we are playing with time a little bit, which is kind of what we always do anyways, because time, what is time really?
Yeah, we're not keeping up with most things new. You know, we just kind of when it falls into place, it falls into place, but we wanted to give ourselves a little more time to watch some of the films that we needed to catch up on because we're so busy and, you know, whatnot. But we were going to throw a little wrench in here. Today, we're actually going to have a guest. And I know this is weird because we like to just hog up all the sound space for ourselves. But we had him on one. He's our only guest we've ever had. He was actually on this episode last time. So here he is again. He likes to be called the man from the fourth row. He always wears a Boston Red Sox hat, and he's from Florida. Dan Skip Allen is back. What's up, man?
Hey, man! I am so glad to be back with you guys. I miss you guys. We've had so many great times discussing movies in the past, and I just can't say enough how glad I am back. I am glad to be back with you two guys I consider two of my good buddies.
Yeah, we have to give Dan all the credit because if it wasn't for Dan, we would have never met Andrew.
Very true. Very true. He's the key part of our origin story.
He's in our origin story. When they make the movie, you know.
When they make the movie, who's going to play Dan?
Well, I'm thinking we get somebody like Matt
Damon?
No, that's too on the nose. That's too on the nose with the Boston thing. I'm thinking like somebody like what's his name? Dennis Quaid. You look like possibly Dennis Quaid.
Yeah. How about Casey Affleck?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You and Boston people.
I know.
All right.
Why don't you just pick every single person from Boston possible?
Yeah.
Would you like Aerosmith to do the soundtrack too?
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll do that. You know, Aaron Taylor maybe. Aaron, what's his name? Stained, that guy?
Oh, goodness gracious.
God, no, you don't want that. All right. Anyway, well, we're going to get down to back to business. So for the I don't do this enough, but if you guys, you know, are hearing this for the first time, you can go to Apple Podcast or Podbean to get the audio for all this stuff. Go look at our previous episodes. We got tons of stuff. Usually on an episode, we would focus in on one movie. So we watch everything. We watch foreign films. We watch, recent films. So go back, look at our old episodes. Let us know what you think. So from here, the way we're going to do our lists is we're going to do 3 at a time. We're going to start with Dan, we're going to go to me, and we're going to go to Andrew, and we're each going to say, I like to say these are our favorite films from last year. I don't like to list things because in a sense of like 1 through 10, but I do like to say what my favorite film of the year is. So number 1 is my true number 1, but the rest of them are kind of like up in the air for me. But we're going to go 3 at a time, starting with Dan, and then we'll get to the number 1. So I guess and at the end we'll talk about honorable mentions. So anything else we need to bring up before we start?
No, let's get into it.
Let's get it on, as they say. Dan, what is your number 10?
My number 10 is basically a film that stars a young actress that, you know, she's had her ups and downs in her career, but I think really, this is probably the best performance of her life. And that actress, her name is Carey Mulligan, and the movie is called Promising Young Woman. It's directed by Emerald Fennell and written by Emerald Fennell. And I'll tell you what, this is a statement about college people and alcoholism and date rape drugs and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, it really hit me over the head with like a brick because of just how real this problem is in America. And it has a great cast like Max Greenfield, Adam Brody. I mean, it has a really good little supporting cast in it, but the standout is Carey Mulligan. I just think she's phenomenal.
Nope, did we lose Dan?
She is. God,
Let me take a look. Oh no, there he is, but he's frozen.
Oh,
who? I'm frozen.
Oh, you're back now. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I think she's got a legitimate shot at an Academy Award. Carey Mulligan. She's phenomenal in this film.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we might be talking about that movie again later. Who knows? So what's your number 9, Dan?
My number 9 is, I love a good animated film that really can get you into it as far as how you can relate to the characters and the subject matter. And Soul, which is my number 9, it really talks about how people are meant for things. And yeah, you might not like your job and you might not like your life, but sometimes there's places in the world for everybody and everybody's meant for something. And Soul really showed me that everybody is supposed to be where they're supposed to be. And they have a life that they were meant to have. And don't try to be something you're not, and it is such a beautiful, beautiful film. The layering, of the New York scenes and stuff. I mean, just unbelievable. The music, the jazz music that's in it and stuff. Great work by Tina Fey and Jamie Foxx as well. But Pete Docter, this guy can do no wrong. I have Soul at number 9.
Awesome. And number 7, Dan. Or I'm sorry, number 8.
Number 8, my number 8 film of the year is another. This is a documentary. I'll tell you, over the years, I've really started to appreciate documentaries, and I've had some good ones this year. I've seen some real good ones, but this one, you guys know I'm a huge sports fan. You guys are both sports fans as well, and you used to hear this stuff on the news, and you're like, no, this can't be true. This is, but. This Dr. Larry Nassar, this guy that was a doctor for these gymnasts in the U.S. Gymnastics Association, there was all these reports coming out that he was working on these girls, but he was messing with them. And this documentary called Athlete A goes in depth from the reporters in Indianapolis to the parents of certain girls, to the people running U.S. Gymnastics, to the, it goes the whole level. It doesn't just focus on one thing. You're getting multiple layers of reporting and interviews and documented footage. I cannot say enough about how incredible this movie Athlete A is, and it is on Netflix right now, just like Soul was on Disney Plus. I highly, these are the kind of cutting edge stories that I want to know about. Yeah, is it a little bit? You get a little squeamish. You do get a little squeamish. You're like, oh my God, this guy messed with little high school girls, teenage girls, and it's like, it's tough. It's tough to listen to some of the stuff that is going on, and how culpable the U.S. Gymnastics Association is in all of this. But Athlete A, I'm not going to give out the reason why the film was called Athlete A until you watch it. But yeah, wow, what a great documentary.
Cool. Yeah, there's been a lot of great documentaries over the years. It's just hard to keep up with them, man. I've seen a few this year, and there's some great ones, but that's one I need to watch. All right, so I'm gonna go into mine. The first one I'm going to talk about is one I saw not too long ago, and you could probably say, I'm not sure if this will be on a lot of people's lists, but I found this to be a very enjoyable movie. I found it to be kind of a different, a way of doing a certain genre that's been played over and over again, but doing it in a fun way, and that is mixing the romance genre with the monster movie genre, and that is Love and Monsters. Starring Dylan O'Brien, I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I thought, I think Dylan O'Brien's a guy that is starting to finally kind of grow out of that Maze Runner part of his career, where that was the first thing he really did that brought him some notice. And then I think he got in an injury in the third movie that kind of set him back somewhat. And then he did a couple other movies that haven't, but now I just watched him in the first episode of that Amazing Stories that's on Apple TV. He's good in that too. And then there's this, which I thought was really fun, because I love a good monster movie. And the way that they used that as kind of the backdrop for this kind of like quirky, fun romance, where he's living in a world where there's monsters everywhere and everybody's kind of living underground. And he's kind of like with a group of people where he feels like he doesn't have a place. And so there's a girl we knew before all the shit went down that lives in another group, like across it's about 85 miles across, just, of course, desolate monsters roaming the land. So he decides that he's going to go and find his love. So he goes and there's adventure ensues, all the he meets people along the way, and it's a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it, and that's my number 10. Yay. So number 9 is one I actually just watched, literally before we got on this podcast, and it's still sinking in for me. And it is the only animated film I have on my list, and it is called Wolfwalkers.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. I watched it. It's on Apple TV right now, and this is some of the most gorgeous animation I've seen in a while. We don't get that hand-drawn animation much anymore. And when we do, it's usually from Studio Ghibli. They're the ones that kind of still, continue that. But of course, I love what Laika does with the stop motion. But there's something about hand-drawn animation when it's done right. It's so beautiful, and it's like they kind of. It's almost like hand-drawn animation, like with watercolors. Like it's got this like very smeary look to it, and it's like almost more lo-fi than some of the like Disney hand-drawn animation. But it looks so beautiful. But it's kind of if this Wolfwalkers is basically the story of Avatar, but way better. It's about, or you could say almost Princess Mononoke, where it's about basically this ancient society of wolves. That live in the forest that are being, invaded upon by, of course, us terrible humans, and the gentrification, I guess you could say, of that, where they want to just tear down their home and turn it into their home. So it's the only notable voice actor in the movie is, I think, Sean Bean plays the father of our main character, but it's just such a beautiful story. It's a simple story, but it's so beautiful to watch. So I definitely recommend. Apple TV is only $5 a month. You can probably run it. I don't know when it comes out on Blu-ray, but it's worth watching. And then my number 7 is one I caught earlier last year on Amazon Prime. I really enjoyed this movie, Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank has Paul Bettany. It also stars the girl from the It movies, if I can remember her name. I don't have the cast list up right now.
That's Sophia Lillis?
Is that her name? She's great. And she was also in that Hansel and Gretel movie.
Yeah, I just watched that the other night. That's why I remembered her name.
Well, good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why I got Andrew here. He's supporting me. But Uncle Frank's about this girl who's their family. I think it's set maybe in the 70s, maybe. But they're from the South, and Paul Bettany's like from that part of that family. She basically is the girl's uncle, and obviously by the title. And he's like lives in the city. He lives in New York, and she always knows she likes him, but doesn't know much about him. But every time he visits, she always loves talking to him. And come to find out, when she kind of surprise visits him, because she goes to college out in New York, she finds out that he's gay. And it's kind of, it always it deals with that idea of, how he needs to break the break him being homosexual to his family, and it deals with that, and just Paul Bettany's performance. You know, he goes from being very charming to being very distraught, and just all the in between. And his partner in the film is also very funny and very, very, you know, it's a very heartwarming tale of acceptance and things like that. So like I said, it's on Amazon Prime. Go check it out. That is my number 8. So Andrew, now your turn. You finally waited all this time.
Best for last.
You're 10 through 8.
Nice. The best for last. Well, coincidentally, my number 10 is also Dan's number 10, and which is Promising Young Woman. And I was telling both Dan and Steven before the show started that I watched this on December 31st to end the year. And yeah, Promising Young Woman, like Dan said, stars honestly one of my favorite actresses, and I think one of the most underrated actresses in Carey Mulligan. And I've just always been a huge fan of hers. Always been just a gigantic fan. I mean, she's been in movies like Never Let Me Go and Education, Shame, Suffragette. Just so many really great films. Wildlife, which I think was Paul Dano's directorial debut. Mudbound. I mean, just so many great films, and I think she's an amazing actress. And like Dan said, this may be her best performance. And I don't doubt in my mind that she'll be nominated for best lead actress. Will she win? I don't know, because she hasn't won in the past, and this may be a tough year for her to win. But yeah, like Dan said, this is a film about just tackling a lot of issues that plague our society when it comes to the roles of that men play when it comes to the abuses of women, whether it be psychological, physically. You know, it does kind of play on the, you know, youthful nature of recklessness of young men, but I think it can be really, you know, thematically stretched out to say all men, because you know, these happen at every age. But yeah, it's a really harrowing film, and someone on Twitter described it to me. It's not a revenge fantasy film like the trailers would suggest it would be. It's a revenge reality film, which I thought was really, really more profound than a revenge fantasy film. But it's really, really good, and Carey Mulligan is out of this world in it, and Bo Burnham, who's also in it, is really, really good. And yeah, it's a really great film. And it's getting a lot of buzz for obvious reasons. But my number 9 is kind of a different film, but also dealing with a lot of, you know, deeply prominent and contemporary thematic themes. And that is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which stars Viola Davis, Chadwick Boseman. This is, I believe, Chadwick Boseman's last film that he's in. And he's getting a lot of awards buzz for obvious reasons, because he's really, really good in it. But this is a film that is set, I believe, in the 1920s, and it is based off of a play, I believe. And is it? Yeah, it's based off of an August Wilson play. That's why I remembered it, because August Wilson did a lot of plays about chronicling just African American culture through the decades. If you've seen Fences from a few years ago, that was an August Wilson play. So it feels very play-like, and the dialogue and the acting and the staging is all really, really fantastic. And it's based on, I believe, a true story. Like, Ma Rainey actually existed, and she was actually a really prominent recording artist in the South. And this film kind of chronicles like her trying to get a record made, but just kind of struggling against the racism of the time and the racism that still exists within the entertainment industry, you know, throughout the decades. It's really, really good. Viola Davis, once again, going for that Oscar nomination. She's really great in this movie, as well as Chadwick Boseman. And this is a Netflix film, so you can watch this on Netflix if you want to. And it came out quite late last year. It came out in December, so we had to wait pretty long for it. And the next film is actually, when I watched it, it instantly became one of my favorite films. And it is a foreign film, and it is Another Round, starring one of my favorites in Mads Mikkelsen. And this film is directed by Thomas Vinterberg, who did the movie The Hunt for a few years ago, starring Mads Mikkelsen as well. So they have a good working relationship. And the premise of this movie I just find fascinating, because it's kind of it's kind of a dark comedy, but also kind of a tragic drama as well. Basically, 4 friends who are all high school teachers, including Mads Mikkelsen, decide that they're going to kind of be consistently drunk throughout the day, but at a very low blood alcohol level, because they read somewhere that some philosopher or somebody said that humans are supposed to have like a certain blood alcohol content to be like fully functional or normally functional or whatever. But of course that leads to then pushing the envelopes further and further, and what you get is kind of a just look of everyone's kind of existential self-destructive crisis that they're having. And it's really fantastic. And the ending of this movie is so euphoric and catharsis, and it's just a scene that I play over and over again. But Mads Mikkelsen is kind of the one that really the story focuses on the most, but it bounces around a little bit. But he's the one that really gets a lot of playtime, and he's really good in the film. Really fantastic. So I highly recommend the film. I think it's a Danish film, I want to say.
Yeah, Danish, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Danish film. So that's my 10 through
8.
Couldn't count.
Awesome. Dan, number 7.
My number 7 is a film that I saw back in November. It didn't come out till January 15th. It's an Amazon Prime movie. It's directed by Regina King and stars Kingsley Ben-Adir, Leslie Odom Jr., Eli Gore, and God, I'm missing one of the people. I hate not getting people's
it's like
names.
Sam Cooke.
Aldous Hodge. They play Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, and Jim Brown. And after a fight in Miami between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston, they go to a hotel room organized by Malcolm X. And it's a 4-man discussion, basically, on the civil rights movement in America and their place as celebrities in this movement, in the civil rights movement and so forth. And it is such a great film when you can just get a camera work that just goes, and you see these 4 guys moving around, you see them arguing with each other, you see them having existential crisis within themselves, and it does go back, and it has a little bit of back and forth between like some of the characters' personal lives and so forth, because they all are huge celebrities at the time for the black community. And I'll tell you, Leslie Odom Jr. really stood out for me, but the one that really stood out for me was Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X. This guy was phenomenal as Malcolm X. I mean, a lot of people are comparing him to Denzel Washington. He's doing a little bit slightly different Malcolm X, but I thought he was fantastic in this film. And I thought Regina King, wow, what a this lady, I mean, she wins an Emmy for Watchmen. She wins an Oscar for If Beale Street Could Talk. Now she's going to get nominated for another Academy Award for director. This lady's on fire right now. Yeah, so that's my number 7. One Night in Miami.
All right, number 6.
Number 6 is another film that I saw that, I mean, look, Andrew talks about a film dealing with alcoholism, but this is a film, to me, when I saw it, it hit home for me. It reminded me of basically myself. And it was like an amalgamation of a coach, a basketball coach that I knew, a very good friend of mine, and myself combined into one person. And it's called The Way Back, with Ben Affleck as this kind of construction worker, goes home and he gets schlossed every night until a priest at his old school comes to him and he says, hey, we need a new basketball coach, and you got to stop. You got to kind of stop drinking, though. You can't keep doing this to yourself. This needs to be, because you can't be around these kids. You can't be doing this stuff and so forth. And so he becomes the basketball coach of his old high school. And I tell you what, he also meets a girl, a woman in the process, played by Janina Gavankar. You might know her from some video games if you play some video games. She's voiceover in some video games. But it really talks about alcoholism and then the cost it does on people's lives, and how it could really ruin your life. And this movie was just an absolute great film for me personally. And people, it's cliche. It's well, hey, one man's cliche is one man's frickin' another man's like great film. So there you go. So I had number 6.
They're cliches for a reason. I mean, they work. I like the film okay, but we knew you can't help yourself. You're a Boston guy, and it's a sports movie, so it doesn't take much for you to put that on your list.
But I also was an alcoholic, so I could really relate to it. And I'm 7 years sober now.
Some people like to be reminded of their downfalls, and other people,
Coincidentally, I think that was the last movie I saw in a theater.
Yeah,
that was the last one I saw, which is coming up on a year now.
Yeah, I think the last thing I saw, well, before we kind of reopened, because in North Carolina, we've reopened theaters to an extent, but before that, I think the last movie at the beginning of the pandemic was The Hunt. I saw The Hunt. Then I think like 7 months later, I can't even remember what the first thing I saw when I went back.
Tenet. Yeah. You saw 7 months
later. Yeah, I did see. You're right. I saw Tenet when I came back. But
nice.
Cool. Yeah, your number 5
or 6?
Yeah,
was that
6? Yeah, so 7. I did 2. So
7, 6, and now we're on your 5.
Oh,
yeah. Yep. I'll tell you what. Sometimes you see movies and they have a subject matter and you say, "Oh man, that subject matter seems like it's a little rough. I don't know if I want to watch a movie about that subject matter." But when you're watching a movie that is this good, with basically unknown actors dealing with a really, really tough subject matter, and it is just so well done, you just can't not be like blown away by it. And the film is called Never, Really, Sometimes, Always, and it deals with a girl, a high school, like an 18-year-old girl who basically, or 17-year-old girl who basically gets pregnant, and her and her friend Skylar embark on a trip from where they live in Pennsylvania to New York to get an abortion. And they meet a guy in New York. And so, but it really talks about what trying to give up your child that's inside your stomach is it really a child? Do you really understand what you're doing? And that's where the title comes from. Never, Really, Sometimes, Always. Because she has to answer a whole questionnaire about, is she doing the right thing? Does she really know what she's doing? And what she's thinking about in her life and what the future of her life could be, whereas she has to take care of a child at the age of 17 or so forth. And I'll tell you what, I mean, this movie was incredible. The lead actress, I can't think of her name right now, is amazing in it. And these are the kind of films I want to see. Yeah, is it kind of a squeamish film to deal with a subject matter like abortion? Sure it is. But hey, this is what movies are for. And that's why I just had, just thought it was an amazing, amazing movie. Never, Really, Sometimes, Always.
I actually watched this movie today also. I will say it just didn't make my list. I really enjoyed it also. I will say that if you want to watch an actual squeamish version of that movie, watch 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. That one's a lot more harsher version of this movie, because that one's set in Romania where it's illegal to get an abortion and they have to sneak around and do it. That movie's rough. This movie is it's got its moments, but it's, it's definitely about how unsimple it is getting an abortion isn't a simple choice. Whether the questionnaire tries to make it seem simple, it's not simple. I think that's the point, is that, you can't narrow down deciding to have an abortion to 4 options. It's not that easy. But it's an interesting movie.
And obviously I'm not a woman, so it's just, but it doesn't mean I can't respect a movie about something that's sensitive to women. Of course.
Definitely. All right. Well, I guess we're to me. My number 7. This is one that I was very interested to watch this one when I heard about it, because not only because of the lead actor, but because it involves music, and I'm a musician. This is a movie called Sound of Metal. And it's about this metalhead played by Riz Ahmed, who starts to basically loses most of his hearing in an initial, just out of nowhere. He's in a heavy metal band, and he's a drummer, so it's a lot of loud sounds, and because of, I guess, his neglectfulness, he now loses almost, I think it was 80% of his, it was almost everything, and that basically he was going to go completely deaf, and sooner rather than later. So he then has to kind of basically learn, instead of trying to think about what he can do to fix it, he has to learn to live with it. And that's what kind of the movie's about, is about how people spend a lot of time trying to fix something that, when they should be trying to, learn how to live with something that maybe is out of their control. He's very passionate about his music in the film, obviously, but he has to know that he can't do it the same way. He can't live life the same way he can before it's over. And it's about him accepting that and trying to make the best of what he has, which in the film, he has a girlfriend that he's really into. I can't remember who she's played by.
Olivia Cook.
Olivia Cook, yes, from Ready Player One. She's in there. And so, you deal with, he deals with that and how that's going to affect that relationship. And for me, it's to think about how, if I say I lost my sight, and I couldn't really be a filmmaker anymore, I couldn't make stuff, I couldn't watch movies, I had to hear movies. It makes me think about that, and how if I lost that, how hard that would be, and how frustrating that would be. And so that's where it really hit home for me with this movie. And Riz Ahmed's performance is amazing. He's always been an actor I've been interested in since he was supporting in Nightcrawler. I've always wanted to see him do more and more, and he's great. So,
and Paul Raci too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a revelation he is in this.
Moving to my number 6. This one is, I have a feeling this one's going to be higher on your guys' lists. It's about middle of the road for me. I really thought this was a very beautiful film. And some of the best performances, probably one of the best performances of the year in this movie, and that's Nomadland. You got Frances McDormand, who basically has decided to kind of leave her life behind and live on the road as a nomad. And this movie's directed by Chloe Zhao, who I think did The Rider. Yeah, a few years ago, and that got some buzz. Didn't necessarily make it into the award season too much, but it was a great film. And so yeah, there's kind of a zen quality to this movie. It's a very meditative movie, and it's one of the movies you can't really necessarily, describe. It's one of the movies you got to experience. But I thought it was just so beautifully acted, and it's one of them things where it's like you watch it and it's like, I kind of feel like doing what she's doing. I would love to just leave it all behind, and go out on the road and kind of just live day to day, kind of like looking at things differently, not just like worrying about paying the bills or going to my job, or, she has to work a job just to maintain what she's doing, but it's not like so beholden to her as it would be most people. She's got to make enough money to keep gas in her car or whatever it is, But it's such a beautifully acted film and beautifully directed film. It's a must see, and that's my number 5, or my number 6, I think. Yeah, 6. And then my number 5 is one that Andrew just talked about, Another Round.
Nice.
I thought this was such a like you said, it's a comedy, but it's also kind of a tragedy. But for the most part, I found this to be a very joyous movie. And if you think about the plot from just like a kind of like a standard, like the borderline standpoint, it's like you made this in America. This is just like made with Seth Rogen, and it comes off as like not genuine at all and just like slapsticky and stupid. But because this was made with, top-notch actors, the premise came off with a little bit more sincerity, where these guys are just like, we're gonna drink, we're gonna stay drunk, and we're gonna be higher. Our function's gonna be higher. You got Mads Mikkelsen, who's playing this guy who's kind of like gotten, I guess, complacent with his life. He doesn't have a lot of happiness anymore. He kind of is just going through the motions. And then his friends kind of bring him into the fold to do this experiment. And now he's like more happy as a teacher and being a better husband. And I think the movie, uses that, that scenario to help bring an awakening to all the main characters. All of them react to this experiment differently. And Mads Mikkelsen, of course, comes out the other end the best, probably, because he actually is able to salvage some of it, at the end, or at least there's hope at the end. But I think this is just one of the movies, like you said, the ending really leaves you in a kind of like a euphoria or a hopefulness. Though there's a lot of bad things that happen in the movie, you feel good at the end because we've actually learned something about ourselves. So the characters all learn something about themselves. So Another Round is a great film. I think you can rent it on Amazon. I think that's where I rented it. So yeah, check it out. So now we're back to Andrew, who's at his number 7.
Nice. My number 7, your number 7 are exactly the same. That is Sound of Metal. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, this looks very much something I want to see. And then when it dropped on Amazon in early December, I watched it, and yeah, I loved it. I still love it. It's like you said, Riz Ahmed is fantastic in it. Olivia Cooke is in it for a little bit, but she's also fantastic in it. But Paul Raci, who brings kind of Riz Ahmed's character into the world of, for the lack of a better term, the function people who are trying to live with being deaf and trying to exist with that as part of their lives. Really fantastic. But I thought this was one of Riz Ahmed's best performances, and he's a fantastic actor. I think he's been kind of slowly climbing up over the last few years, being in a few films, kind of breaking out in Nightcrawler back in 2014, and then of course he was also in The Night Of, that miniseries on HBO, which was really fantastic. And then his career's kind of disappeared a little bit, but he's back in a big bad way, and he's really good in this film, and I think he'll be nominated as well. And I really love his kind of almost delusional existential journey, because he's trying to both adjust to this new part of his life and he's not quite realizing that this is not something that that his life is no longer the same as it was before. He's trying to keep like one foot in both worlds, back in his old life and also like trying to live in this new life. And he's kind of a man torn between both worlds, and it's very interesting where he ends up in this film and the kind of realizations he has to come to. I thought were really revelatory. But the next film, my number 6, is Spike Lee's new film, Da 5 Bloods, which is a film from Netflix. Netflix is really kind of pushing it this year when it comes to their movies and just award circuit movies. They're really like heavily getting a lot of nominations this year. And I've always been a fan of Spike Lee. I mean, his last film, Black Klansman, was one of my favorite films of the year when it came out. That was an amazing film. Probably should have won Best Picture over Green Book, but that's a different story for a different time. But this is his new film, and this film stars a really great cast. Delroy Lindo, Jonathan Majors, the late, Chadwick Boseman's in this film. And it's about these old Vietnam veterans who are going back to Vietnam, years and decades later, to not only pay tribute to their fallen comrade soldier, but also they left a bunch of gold behind apparently when they were there. So they tried to go and retrieve that, and that premise kind of sounds odd on paper, like it's a treasure hunt in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's like Goonies or something.
Yeah, it's like something interesting. But what it ends up being is yet again another existential journey for these guys who, lived through such horrific times in their youth, and they have to kind of not only relive, but they go back to the same places that they were back then, and it's a completely different world. And Delroy Lindo is amazing in this movie, dealing with PTSD and stuff like that. And I've always thought Delroy Lindo was just an underrated kind of character actor, and he's been around for a really long time. He has a lot of credits to his name. I always remember him in Get Shorty. That's always one of my favorite kind of character actor roles for him. Favorite from me. But yeah, I think Da 5 Bloods is really good. And I think Spike Lee, I love his stylization. It can be a little bit much at times, but I really like the way he kind of incorporated old Vietnam War footage in the way he made it look, the way he utilized the aspect ratio in filming those scenes versus the modern scenes, and the lighting and the coloring and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really love Da 5 Bloods. But my number 5 is a movie I don't see on a lot of people's favorite lists, or at least a lot of articles that I read, and that is Sorry We Missed You. This was a movie I saw way back early on this year, and it was actually my favorite movie for the longest time. And yeah, because it came out back in March. That's how long this movie came out. And this is a Ken Loach film. And the reason why I bring that up is because Ken Loach is kind of a famous, British, British director, filmmaker, and his films deal a lot with, political strife and very political films about the common people and their struggle, really against kind of government bureaucracy and just society in general. And his films go back for decades. I mean, he's done films I, Daniel Blake, which came out a few years ago. That was a really great film. The Wind That Shakes the Barley, I think, won a Palme d'Or back in the 2000s. And he's been a director that I've known him for a long time, because I had a film professor in college who was British, and he just showed us all British films. And I think Ken Loach or John Sayles was his favorite director. So he just kind of introduced us to English films. I've always known Ken Loach, and he's been around for decades. I want to say, yeah, Ken Loach did the movie Kes back in the 60s. So he was part of kind of that. There was a whole kind of movement in the 60s, kind of British New Wave movement with Ken Loach and a bunch of other people. I think John Frankenheimer may have been in there, but yeah, it's a whole thing. Or yeah, it was a whole movement. But he's been around for decades, and I really love this movie. It's about basically a family in England trying to survive financially, and just having to deal with the problems of that. There's this father who's trying to start his own delivery business. He's trying to get his own delivery truck, but he's trying to deliver for an Amazon type company, or maybe it is actually Amazon, and just dealing with just the machine of the modern working man and the modern industry and business, and how it just beats you down and treats you like you're just a machine, like you're just nothing. And you see all of these, CNN or 60 Minutes specials about the Amazon factories and how people literally drop dead and people just continue on working, or things like that. And it just really kind of really leans into that. So yeah, that's Sorry We Missed You is my number 5.
I really like that one too. It just missed my list too. That seems to be one of the big thematic points in recent years movies about the strife of the working class. You know, the movie that comes to mind for me that I really love is Sorry to Bother You. To me, is the ultimate of that, because it literalizes a lot of the things we think about when we think about people that are kind of stuck in the machine and are literal workhorses. I don't want to give away the ending of that movie, but I really enjoyed. Well, I wouldn't say enjoyed, but I really like Sorry to Bother You, or Sorry I Missed You, because it is very. I work in a kind of a worky job like that, where I feel like they think I'm a machine, working for Pepsi. So it feels the same way sometimes.
Yeah, I like that movie as well. I saw it. I had it on my top 10 list for a long time. And I completely agree with what you're saying, Stephen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was your number 5, right?
Yes, it was.
All right. So now we're heading back up to Dan for his number 4 through 2.
Well, there's not a whole lot I could say about this one that you guys haven't already said, but I will reiterate that I love Mads Mikkelsen, and I loved his character arc in the film. But I will say that, going back to a little bit what I was talking about in the way back, that alcoholism just doesn't do anything to help anybody. All it does is hurt people, hurt family members, hurt loved ones. In this case, hurt your job. And I basically lived this life for quite a while in my life, and it was not a fun experience for me to be going to work and being drunk and waking up hungover, and I thought this is one of the best portrayals of this subject matter that I had ever seen. In both movies, The Way Back and Another Round, really deal with alcoholism on a real visceral level, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks how painful this can be to people involved in your life, and it doesn't do anything good for you, being an alcoholic. And the experiment to me was they should never have done it, because it was going to go down a dead end road, and that's what happens when you do this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I hear also that the culture in Denmark is a very high drinking culture. So that's kind of what they were talking about also in the movie, is that, kind of giving a little bit of a highlight of what goes on over there and how people, because, the drinking age is pretty young there. So you got kids in high school drinking like adults. So I think they're also kind of highlighting that there might be an issue when it comes to the alcohol consumption in that country. But,
Yeah, an epidemic.
Yeah, maybe. But all right, cool. So Another Round was your number 4. Number 3.
My number 3 is a film that I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but I just, when I saw it, it's a long film. It's like a 3-hour long film. The star of the film is a little boy, and he basically gets abandoned in the in the surrounding war that is going on in World War II in Poland and so forth. And there's a lot of really good character actors that are in the film that people like Stellan Skarsgård, people like Barry Pepper, people like Harvey Keitel, but the main star is a little boy who's just basically kind of going through his life, going from person to person to person, going through situations from situation to situation. And it is an absolute phenomenal film. It's a Polish film called The Painted Bird, and it's black and white. It's beautifully filmed. It just hit me so hard how tough life was during this time, especially if you're, Jewish or whatever, during this period, and how nasty and how mean and how just awful the German people were back then, and this kid just end up with one bad person after another, one person that took advantage of him or one whatever, and into one rough situation after another, and it's just such a beautiful movie and such an awful movie at the same time from what this little boy goes through. I can't say enough how I think, especially you guys, I think you guys would really get a lot out of The Painted Bird.
Yeah, it's one I just never got around to, unfortunately. It looks like Andrew didn't either.
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was 3 hours long until you just said that, but I have heard of that movie.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're down to number 2, Dan. What you got?
My number 2 is another Netflix movie. I mean, Netflix has had a great year. I mean, when a lot of streaming services have had a lot of movies come out, but Netflix is the one that really consistently every month, every few weeks, we're putting out a new movie. But the first big one that they put out, in my opinion, is the best one they put out in that entire stretch of all the movies that they put out in the last, September, October, November, and December, and that's called Trial of the Chicago 7, and it's directed by Aaron Sorkin, and it basically deals with this this rioting that was going on in Chicago during the 1969 or 70 Democratic Convention, and Mayor Daley was not going to let any kind of negative thing go on around or near the convention. And the film focuses on about 7 different guys. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen, John Carroll Lynch, Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, what's the guy from Succession? Jeremy Strong are some of the guys, and it focuses on a lawyer played by Mark Rylance and a judge played by Frank Langella. And this trial is basically a fiasco of a trial because these guys they didn't do anything wrong, but they were trying to railroad these guys and to make them out to be these bad guys. All they were there is to protest some stuff that was going on in Vietnam and some civil rights issues and so forth. And they all had different sides. They weren't even on all the same side of these issues. And that, I tell you, Aaron Sorkin is a master of the script, and the dialogue is just so amazing by so many of these people. Mark Rylance, Sacha Baron Cohen, Frank Langella. I mean, and then there's like guest appearances by like Michael Keaton and stuff. But yeah, I just absolutely loved Trial of the Chicago 7, and I think Aaron Sorkin, what a great job. Follow up from Molly's Game.
Yeah, once again, another one I never got around to. I mean, if I could only have the time that Dan apparently has to watch all these movies, my list could be different, but who knows? All right, well, now back to me. Here we go. My number 4 is one that I just couldn't keep off the list. It had to be on here because this movie is my kind of jam, as Alicia Malone would say. This movie is my jam. It is from the son of probably my favorite director. He knows where I'm going with this. It is called Possessor. This is from David Cronenberg's son, Brandon Cronenberg. This is not his first film. I think he's done maybe 1 or 2 other films before this, but this to me is his, this is the beginning. This is a movie about this is about an assassin. He gets hired by corporations to take out the competition, and the way they do it is she basically inserts her mind into somebody else's body and kills and this movie, if you're into surrealistic filmmaking or anything like that, this is going to have some of that in there. It's also got a lot of violent images that you're maybe you would be, if you're into Cronenberg, you would recognize that this is where he got his influence from his own dad. But there's some disturbing things in this movie, but it's also a very beautiful film visually. And I'm just into these dark movies like this that, you really have to spend time thinking about what does that mean, but there's just no way I couldn't keep. There's so many disturbing images in this movie that I just could. I'm fascinated by this movie. I can't wait to watch it again because I got it on 4K. So I can't wait to watch it again and
Christopher Abbott is in it, and I'll tell you what, this is a young actor that is really starting to come into his own. I just saw 2 films with him in it from Sundance, and he's really good.
Okay. And Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it. She plays kind of like the I guess you could say the leader, the main agent that the main character works for. But yeah, it's just a very interesting, surreal film that I'm fascinated by. So I had to put it on the list somewhere. So my number 3 is one that is very, very far back near the beginning of the year, and it's I would say it's probably one of the biggest movies of last year that kind of stayed in people's conscience throughout the year, and that's The Invisible Man. I think this is if they were ever gonna actually do a Universal Monster universe, this is how you do it. You make them small, make them intimate films, and then somehow figure out a way to connect them in small ways. We don't know if they're gonna still do that or not, but I can tell you if this is the beginning of it, they did one hell of a job because. First of all, they decided to take the story in a different direction. They didn't make it the not cliche, but the original Invisible Man story where you kind of get it from the actual Invisible Man's point of view. They take the idea of somebody being invisible, and that is what the horror is. And of course, on top of that, you add the thematic stuff of women abuse. And, kind of following a woman trying to get away from that abuse is just suspenseful and thrilling and horrifying. And they did one hell of a job with this movie. And the intensity of what they do when they just look at there's just literal frames of this movie where there's just nobody there. 'Cause you're just like, is he there? Is the Invisible Man there? Is he not there? I don't know. You're looking for any clues. Like Elizabeth Moss she just continues to be an impressive actress. And I always am interested in what she's going to do next. So, Invisible Man is my number 3. It's one I've watched a few times since I've had it. So it had to be on the list because to me, rewatchability is always pretty key when it comes to these favorites lists.
That ladder scene was so just suspenseful.
Yeah, it's so simple, but they knew how to get you at the right moments. And now to my number 2. My number 2 is one that it was hard not to put. It was easy to put on the list because it involves one of my kind of up and rising favorite actors, and it's a type of movie that I really enjoy, the kind of slice of life type of movie. And it's the movie called Minari. Steven Yeun plays this father who's trying to come to, he moves to, I think, it's in Middle America. Arkansas, yeah. They were living in California. I think this is set in the 80s. And he's trying to start a new life for his family by basically growing Korean, vegetables, and he wants to start his own business, basically start a farm and really provide for his family. And the movie's just about him trying to provide and how hard it is sometimes to make your own way. And it especially in today's world, it's easy to just fall in to corporate America. You know, you go get a job somewhere where everybody else works, and that's what you do. This guy's trying to make his own way, and it's not easy. You know, even his wife has a hard time supporting him, and that's tough. I mean, and I think it just really shows a really real look at what that's like, and also how there's beautiful moments, and you know, between all of the stress. There's what's his name, Will Patton?
Yeah,
his character in the movies is hilarious, and also
Eugene something or other.
Yeah, Eugene maybe, I don't know.
Eugene
but
something.
But he comes and he's just a random guy that decides to help Stephen Yan's character with his farm, and he's just kind of gives him a different perspective of life as he's trying to make it, and it's just a beautiful film. I have a feeling maybe somebody else is going to talk about this movie. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I don't want to say anymore. It's just a great film, and you should check it out. So, Andrew, your turn.
Oh, good. I'm back.
Wake up. Oh.
I'm back. So my number 4, is that what we're doing? Yeah, my number 4 is One Night in Miami, which Dan already talked about.
How can you only spend one night in Miami? Jeez.
I don't know. They did it apparently, but like Dan said, this is really a fantastic, just phenomenal film. Just getting these 4 like just gigantic titans of historical weight, as well as just part of the civil rights movement and all that kind of stuff. Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke. All really well portrayed. Like, they nail all of these different acting roles, different characters, but specifically the actor who plays Cassius Clay, the young, pre-Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay, with all of the pomp and circumstance, the vigor, the confidence, just everything, the mannerisms, everything's fantastic. What is so interesting, though, is that all of these people are kind of just dealing with the civil rights movement, dealing with racism, dealing with just the times from completely different perspectives. Sam Cooke is someone who's having amazing success within the musical industry, but he gets called out by Malcolm X for making kind of just like entertaining music just to make money and be successful and stuff like that. He's not really utilizing his gift to for the civil rights movement, for the the progressiveness of the African American community. Jim Brown is someone who is still viewed as as just a kind of a dumb athlete or something like that. There's a really great scene early on in the film where Jim Brown goes and sees someone, and he's still treated as if he's lesser because he's black. And it's really subtle, but also really powerful, because at that point, Jim Brown is one of the greatest football players of his generation, and he's still treated in a certain way. And Malcolm X is dealing with infighting within his own community, and it's a really fantastic, different dynamics going on. And Regina King directs the hell out of this movie, given what she has to work with, which is an adaptation of a stage play. So everything is pretty much set within this one like hotel room in Miami, and you don't have much to work with in terms of spacing and things like that, but I think she utilizes it the best she possibly can. And Regina King, over the last 5 to 6 years or so, has been probably one of the most successful just people, I think, in the Hollywood industry, or the acting or movie or television industry, just racking up the awards over and over again, really putting out some fantastic work. So I have no doubt in my mind she's going to get nominated whenever the Oscars are happening. I mean, she's really put on one of the best films of the year. So that's One Night in Miami. Highly recommend checking that out. It is it's on Amazon, so you can stream it on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime. But my number 3 now is another film that Dan talked about. And this film was actually my number 1 for the longest time as well. And this movie actually bumped... what did it bump? It bumped Sorry We Missed You, bumped that one down. Then One Night in Miami also bumped Sorry We Missed You down. But this is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. And this is a film I saw, much earlier in the year. I think it came out back in April. And yeah, like what Dan said, this is a really, really low-key, just kind of not simple. It's simple in its presentation, but complex in all of its other realms, and which is what I really loved about it, because it is about these two friends traveling to have this procedure done, the abortion done in a different place, in a place that's not really comfortable for them. I think they're from a much smaller town in Pennsylvania, so it's part fish out of water, but part existential and heavily thematically well done, and just a harrowing story of kind of the shattering of innocence in several different ways. These two girls have to come to a mature level and make a very mature decision at a very quick pace, and it's not so much about the procedure of the abortion itself. It's the journey to get through it, to get to it, both physically, literally getting there, and mentally having to get there. And that journey that they go on together and that bond that they have is really what carries the film. And yet again, it's another film that it's very timely, very contemporary in what it's addressing. And I was just blown away by just its honesty and its rawness in terms of, what it's showing, what it was depicting. So that's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. I really hope this gets a Blu-ray release soon, because it's been out for almost a year now, and I don't believe it has one yet. But I really want to add that to the collection. But my number 2 is coincidentally Steven's number 2, Minari.
Holy shit!
What do you know? Once again, Steven and I are on the same page. You can see how we share the same brain sometime. Minari was a movie that I heard about all of last year, and it took literally forever to try to finally watch this movie. I don't know what it is still. It's even during a pandemic where they just won't release these really small independent films on streaming much earlier than they do, because people will watch it if you give it to them. I say this every year. If you release it, they will come, to kind of quote Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Steven said, this stars Steven Yeun, and it's about a Korean family that migrates from not only Korea but from California into pretty much the middle of nowhere in rural Arkansas to kind of pursue, the quote unquote American dream. The idea of the self-made person or the self-made family, rags to riches story, or whatever you want to call the American dream. And it really shows how hard, or how rather probably fictitious that dream is, because it's a fantasy and a fallacy, and it probably doesn't really exist. But this family still tries to pursue it, and kind of all these stepfalls, all the trials and tribulations that they have to go through to get it. One of the best aspects of this movie is the actress who plays the grandmother, who comes and lives with them and creates a whole new aspect to the culture of the family and the aspect of the family and her interaction with her grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. She is amazing in this movie. She is really, truly, absolutely incredible. And I don't know if she's going to get any type of awards recognition or anything like that, but I think it's something to point out that she was also really, really good. It reminds me of the actress who was in The Farewell, that film, and she and just these really kind of elderly pillars of families and just their dynamic and how important they are, and just their function in the family. It's really, really an amazing performance. I think all the performances are really good, but like Steven said, it's a slice of life movie. It's very similar to like a Terrence Malick film. It's on that same level, on that same vibe of a Terrence Malick film for me. It's really, really good. So I highly recommend Minari if you can find it. I think it's coming out February 12th, which is next week, next Friday. So
yeah,
it'll probably be available.
I would have never seen it if I wouldn't have gotten some special link from somebody.
Correct, sir.
Yeah. But all right. Well, here we are to the finale.
We are on the finale.
The finale, the number ones of all of us. So Dan, what is your number one?
My number one is a film that Steven already talked about. It's a
Possessor?
movie.
Possessor?
Unfortunately
I
not.
wish.
I did like Possessor. I did like Possessor, though.
Yeah, Possessor's awesome.
Yeah, I did like Possessor. I'm a fan of Andrea Riseborough in a lot of things. Not Mandy, but other things.
Well, you're not invited to the Nicolas Cage podcast.
I know you're not invited to that podcast we're starting.
I knew you were gonna go be not happy with that, but no, it's a film that Steven already talked about. It's a film that ever since I saw it, it really resonated with me, and it's just, I'm a big fan of great cinematography and the camera work and whatnot, and capturing things in the way that they should be captured in. And the cinematography for me, in along with the acting by Frances McDormand, is just absolutely breathtaking in Nomadland. And it's just kind of like this film where it's like she's going about her life, and she's not doing anything extravagant. She runs into a group of folks in Arizona, and she works for Amazon and all this stuff. But it just really kind of hits home how hard life can be for people, and it's not easy to be able to live your life, pay your bills, keep your house going, and so forth. There's a lot of people in this country that are really struggling. They're poverty stricken. This woman's living in her van, not down by the river, but she's living in a van, and
yes, Chris Farley.
Yeah, I know. That's a deep cut Chris Farley reference.
Yeah, but I just really, Chloe Zhao, the writer, was just such an incredible film. And she just takes these kind of slice of life kind of stories that a lot of people things that are forgotten. People forgot, poverty stricken people, people that don't have a lot of money, they're just kind of sitting on the side of the road in a box or something. They're forgotten. They're the kind of bull riders. They're forgotten. Nobody thinks of bull riders, And she takes these subject matters and she really puts a lot of heart and love into these stories. And Frances McDormand, she's won 2 Academy Awards already, and I think she's going to win a third. I'll be honest with you. I think she was completely different than her last 2 roles, but in such a great way in this film as well. So I had Nomadland as my number 1 film of the year.
Yeah, Chloe Zhao, she's really going to be hitting that slice of life when she does has her next film out about outer space.
Slice one after that is about Dracula.
Yeah. Now it's just been announced that she's going to be doing the new Dracula. So that, and I'm hearing it's going to be in a nice new direction, kind of like Invisible Man. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a sci-fi Western Dracula movie, apparently.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
So I'm excited about it. Yeah. All right. Well, now this is where we can stop because I'm going to tell you my number 1. No, I'm just kidding. We'll skip Andrew's. No, so my number 1 is one that you guys talked about way back at the beginning of this podcast. And I'm going to correct this because this should be all your number 1s. I'm just kidding. My number 1 is Promising Young Woman.
Nice.
I am a very big fan of these type of almost satirical type of movies. It's not necessarily a satire, but it really is pointing out kind of the oblivious nature of how bad men can treat women. And kind of just points it out and makes fun of men for it. There's scenes in this movie where they make men out to be babies and they say oh my God, they sound like babies. They sound like, and I'm like, that's how they can sound sometimes. And we just let them get away with it. And it's just it's a movie that talks about hard subject matters, and then at the end decides to push it even further and goes in a direction you didn't really think it would go that way, but it did. And it uses that ending to enforce its point even harder. And I just love how this movie comes full circle. And it's just a brilliant movie. And like you said, Carey Mulligan, I think we're used to seeing her do a lot more downbeat movies. I think she plays a lot more like whether it be, the one she did with Drive. She's in Drive. She kind of plays kind of a low key character there. The one she did with Jake Gyllenhaal, what was it called? Paul Dano's movie,
Wildlife.
Yeah, and she plays it. She's a wife in a kind of a joyless marriage there. She plays a lot of downbeat roles, but this one, she really gets to be kind of vibrant, and kind of edgy, and she was very fun to watch. And like you said, the marketing for this movie kind of makes this out to be almost like a revenge movie. And honestly, I thought that's what I was going to get. I thought I was going to get her knocking off some fucking assholes, tried to rape her or something. Nope, that's not what happens. But I don't want to ruin it for you. You should just watch the damn movie. Because I promise that it's good. Promise. I used the title.
Well played.
I know. But it is very, very good film. And that's all I got to say.
Nice.
Yeah. So now, I'll speak for Andrew. This is his number one, and it's the number one. This is where it stops here. Go ahead, Andrew.
It's my number one is Nomadland, which Dan and I talked about. I like how Dan and I's lists kind of interweave with one another. I almost have a combination of Dan and Steven's list as my own, by complete accident. But yeah, Nomadland is it's Chloe Zhao's newest film, and Chloe Zhao has another movie coming out this year, which is completely different than anything that you're going to see from her in the past, and that is, it's coming out next year in Eternals. Is Eternals coming out next year?
November.
Yeah.
November.
So this year. Yeah, I forgot what year we were in because it says 2021. Time's kind of funny like that. But anywho, yeah, talk about a completely different abandonment of a Nomadland or The Rider, or even her earlier film, which I've seen, Songs My Brothers Taught Me, which is also really good. But yeah, so Nomadland is, like Dan said, it's a film that's so beautifully subtle and just gorgeous movie. Aesthetically, thematically, the acting is brilliant. I think the only real actors you get in this movie are Frances McDormand and David Strathairn. I think the rest of the people in this movie are real people from the nomad community, if you will. Real people that they got to be in the movie who live their lives as nomads, traveling around, whether they have vans or trucks or, RVs or whatever. And just you're seeing a culture that is, like Dan said, completely invisible or ignored entirely, or just not even known about in general due to ignorance, I guess. And you're just getting a glimpse into their lives, and the film doesn't portray them, for us to pity them or for us to feel bad for them in any way. It just gives us an insight into their mindsets and their culture and why they're nomads and how they live their life in a very kind of intelligent and survivalist way. Like, they have all kind of contingency plans to deal with all of the worst case scenarios. Like, if they're in the middle of nowhere and their vehicle breaks down, how are they going to survive? If they get a flat tire, do they have a replacement for it? What do they do, like Dan said, for money? Working really short, quick jobs wherever they stop. Whether it be at fast food restaurants or an Amazon warehouse, where apparently Amazon will pay your living expenses and things like that just for you to work for them for a month or two or whatever. So I didn't know about any of those types of things, about how those kind of factory worker, very blue collar jobs work. And it was a really interesting insight, and to see Frances McDormand really throw herself authentically into this role, to really give herself over to to looking like she belonged in that life, was really phenomenal for me to see. She is she is probably one of our greatest actresses working, just from just from a critical standpoint, I think she is. If she gets that third Oscar, I don't mean to keep harping on the whole Oscar thing because it's never the end all be all, but if she gets that third Oscar, I think she's going to be tied with Meryl Streep for as many Oscar wins. And that's kind of a big feat because I don't think that she's ever, brought up in the same sentence as Meryl Streep, but she's going to have as much, award success as her, or critical success.
You could also say she probably hasn't been nominated nearly as many times as Streep has.
That is also true.
So you could say her average would be better.
Yeah, her hitting average would be better.
Yeah.
I mean, when she hits, she hits home runs.
Yeah.
And that's what I really kind of appreciate about Frances McDormand. Yeah, it's a really great film. And yet again, it's a very reserved film, but it's saying a lot by doing very little, which I think is a really tough thing to pull off. What's that old cliche that I bring up in like every couple of episodes? It's a film about nothing, but a film about everything.
Yes.
And it's very much, I think, attributed to Nomadland.
Definitely. Well, we made it to the end of the list. Now, this is where things can get off the rails, and I want to preface this with, give me 3 to 5 movies as honorable mentions, because we could sit here and run off many movies, and it wouldn't be fair to the audience if we went on forever. Also, we all want to be able to say something about that the other person hasn't said, so let's not just take all the movies. So Dan, give me 3 to 5 movies that you didn't get to put on your list that you enjoyed.
Well, I'll talk about some that you guys didn't already mention.
Very quickly too, not
name,
like
just name them off. Basically,
we're brisking through them. We're not talking about them in any.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, no, you're right. The Donut King, a phenomenal documentary about a guy who comes from nothing and becomes the king of donuts. Oh my God,
delicious!
Great documentary. The Father, Anthony Hopkins and Olivia just bring you into this world of a man with dementia, and you just feel like you have dementia when you're watching this movie. It's really crazy. Beanpole, another Polish film about abortion and babies and stuff like that. Life Ahead. So Loren, what's her name?
Sophia Loren.
And about Italy, and it's a really good little small film coming out of Italy that I recommend. It's on
Netflix
right now. First Cow talks a little bit about commodities in this country and how we create commodities and how things are developed into things that the country uses and needs. Very interesting story about First Cow. Baby Teeth, another really small movie about this girl, and she's just trying to discover herself. That's pretty much it for me.
All right. Well, I'll run through a few. How about look? I'll do it. Bill and Ted 3, the third one.
Nice.
The Face of Music. It's a fun. That to me, I think they did a great job of bringing that back and giving the fans what they would have wanted. I need to buy it. I have the other two. I need to buy it. Also, how about we talk about, I guess, Palm Springs. Palm Springs, I thought was one of the better comedies this year. You kind of get another version of the Groundhog's Day, but set in at this wedding. You got Andy Samberg, and who was our female counterpart?
Kristen Milioti.
Okay, so there's Dan. He's pulling it.
Yeah, it was a good pull.
And it's just a great kind of like another incarnation of that story with some twists and turns. And I've always liked Andy Samberg. I always think he's hilarious. Also, the Borat movie, the subsequent film, I think is better than the first movie because it has a little bit more direction, a little bit more of a story. Though, of course, a lot of this is just like little scenes that they created, in documentary style. But there are some moments in this movie that just belly laughed because it was so outrageous. And also, how about the movie Freaky? which was another movie that kind of was playing on a trope that we've seen many times. The whole 16 going the kind of Freaky Friday thing, where you swap bodies with a young person, and so in this case it was a serial killer swapping body with a young girl, and I thought that was another very clever way of using that. Kind of mixing genres, like I did with Love and Monsters earlier, putting that on my list, mixing genres up very interestingly. And then how about I talk about, I don't know, The Assistant. The Assistant was pretty good. Another movie that's, we're getting a lot of stuff about, in the wake of like Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too movement and stuff like that. We're getting a lot of other films about, this subject matter where women being treated in the workplace and things like that. And this movie very much follows just a girl around. She's an assistant working for a movie producing company and getting to see how she's treated when she has problems and how, so it's a very interesting watch. Well, that's what I got. What you got, Andrew?
I got a couple that you guys didn't mention. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the Charlie Kaufman film. That's a Netflix film. I thought that if you want some surreal insanity, that's a movie to watch. I'm still unpacking that movie, and I still don't quite know what to make of it. But I just love those types of movies that just mess with your head. Emma, which is another adaptation of the Emma story. This one's starring Anya Taylor-Joy, who had a great 2020, really great 2020. It's a really good talk about satire. It's based off the Jane Austen novel. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I saw that way back early in 2020. Mangrove, and I would honestly say all of the Small Axe movies, to give those all a watch.
Yeah, I left that one for you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I thought Mangrove was really fantastic. There's Mangrove. There's
Lovers Rock is the
Lovers
one that
Rock. Red, White, and Blue. Alex Whittle and Education, right?
Yeah,
Education.
Those are all of them. Yeah.
That's all of them. I mean, some people are treating them all as like grouping them all together, but they're all each individual films with thematic through lines through them.
It's an anthology.
Yeah, it's an anthology. I mean, a lot of people didn't quite like this film, but it was somewhere up there for me. Mank, which is David Fincher's newest film. I'm always down for a Fincher film. Even a Fincher film that may not be his best film, I always find interesting. And this movie also has kind of a personal connection with me because I just love Citizen Kane and Orson Welles. I just love Orson Welles. News of the World, which is Tom Hanks' newest film. Paul Greengrass, I think is a reteam for them. And it's a really solid kind of old school like Western type movie. I really enjoy that. The 40-Year-Old Version is another Netflix film I think is really good. Also want to talk about some stuff that just kind of way off the list in Spontaneous, which is a really great kind of young like teenage existential film that is partly comedic but also very like dramatic as well, and could be quite a little bit satirical in there as well. St. Francis is another film that's really underrated, kind of an indie film but also really good. I could go on forever, but I think those are good.
Yeah, I really wish I could have been more in the loop this year, man. I had a lot going on. I got married. I moved into a house. The goddamn virus around.
Correct.
So many damn things that just got in the way. It didn't stop Dan though. Dan just watched everything.
No, but I mean,
streaming. Everything's on streaming, guys. It's on.
God, it's so disgusting. Let me back in my theater.
Yeah, Steven's more of a purist. But Steven,
I'll watch it where it is. I'll watch it where it's at.
I'm gonna say, you don't have to not watch them because the year was over.
I know. I'm just messing around. I honestly just didn't have time. I hear you. I honestly hate right now because I'm still trying to not catch up, but you fill in the gaps from 2020, and all the 2021 movies are coming out right now. In like every single week, a whole bunch of them just keep dropping, and it's like I can't keep up with the 2021 movies.
when I have to finish the 2020 movies. So that's a streaming problem. There's too much to stream now.
There's too much, man. Things are gonna always fall in the cracks because there's just too much out there.
I say thank you, HBO Max. Thank you.
I guess. But
nice.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Cinema Discovery Project. If you didn't like our lists, well, sorry.
Too damn bad.
But if there's something we left off, just please leave us a comment. Let us know what you liked. Hey, where can we find you, Dan?
You can find me at disappointmentmedia.com. You'll find most of my reviews pretty disappointing. No, just joke. I'm just joking. Hopefully you'll enjoy my reviews. I write for a website called Disappointment Media. That's Disappointmentmedia.com. Also, I have a blog, which Steven kind of alluded to earlier, from the fourth row at WordPress.com. So, those are my pretty much Facebook, Twitter, Dan Skep Allen, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Andrew, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as my YouTube channel, Capzilla Productions.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me on Instagram at Cinema Discovery Project, or on Letterboxd at Cinema Discovery. You can find the audio for this podcast on Podbean or Apple Podcasts. Thank you once again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.
Dan will too.